guys, Colleen here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, make sure to subscribe on your way out. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so very much. Your girl is filming her 2020 foundation collection. Yeah. Luckily, it's not going to be a whole lot. We're just going to run through 29 foundations here. So brace yourself if you are my shade and I am a Marc NC45 reference, or if you have very oily skin and you live somewhere that is super duper hot and humid, I think you may want to watch this video because I do have my thoughts on how well these foundations wear, especially in our climate. So I am going to run through. I do have a foundation playlist which I will link up in the cards above, and I also did a foundation routine I believe it was last year. I will also link that up in the cards above. You can check that out because I don't think I need to like do those. So basically I'm going to run through some foundations. Here are the foundations I have. I did one like 4 years ago and I think that is my most viewed video on YouTube. So hopefully this one could break that record, you know. But I definitely don't have as many foundations in this video as I do that one. But given how old the last foundation video is, there's so many like new releases of foundation that came out that perhaps you're interested in, and I've tried out for the most part, you know, and I can give you my thoughts, and I'll definitely give you my shades. So make sure to pull out your notebook and yeah, let's dive in because this is going to be a long one. I just segue to like how huge these earrings are, guys. These things are heavy. Like I could disconnect this leaf part and this part of the earring will still be heavy. Oh my gosh, like I saw these on Instagram and I was like totally smitten, and I was like, let me get it. And I bought like 3 colors of this and I didn't realize they were this big. But yo, I mean they're cuter but they're heavy. Alright, so starting off is my Juvia's I Am Magic foundation here. I got this in the shade Havana 420 and this is a very perfect match. This is a real full coverage foundation. I did a review on it, so like I said, check it in the playlist below. And it's very full coverage, so if you're someone who suffers from hyperpigmentation or uneven skin tone, this is really good. My only thing is this does not work in our climate. I find I get oily very fast using this foundation and it transfers like a mother. So just be mindful of that when you are using this foundation. Now the next foundation I have here is the Covergirl Full Spectrum Matte Ambition foundation. I use the shade Tan Golden 2. This one is a bit warm for me, but I really haven't like played around with this one as yet to tell you my full thoughts on it. My only difficulty with this shade range is that it runs very deep, and even when I go to Pennywise to see if I could find probably a lighter foundation, just in case this one, you know, gets too deep, because you know these days a girl really not out in the sun, so she is getting a bit on the pale side. It's really hard to find. Like I think this one is marketed for more deeper, richer melanin complexions, which is a great thing. But if you're my complexion, this one is probably the best match for you. It's just a hair or two warmer, so you may have to reverse contour with this foundation. Now this next foundation I recently purchased and I absolutely love it. This is the e.l.f. Flawless Finish Foundation and I use the shade Caramel. This is one of those oil-free satin finish and I really like this one, so let me just swatch it for you guys. Foundation itself, shade pulls more neutral than anything else, which works so well for me, given that my complexion is changed. I would highly recommend it to anybody who is looking for an affordable foundation that wears very nicely during the day, and it actually holds up in our heat very well. Now these next two foundations are from a brand that is near and dear to my heart because I love this brand. They make really good products. It is Wet n Wild Photofocus foundation. I do have the matte version and the dewy version. Both of them work very well for my skin type, and the shade I use in both is Toffee Pecan. Now what's interesting, because I'll open up one of them for you, is that this foundation comes with a doe foot applicator here, so it's a little different from the traditional pump or squeezy tube. And let me just swatch this one. Again, this is another foundation where the undertone is quite neutral for me, and because of that it works very well with my complexion, and this wears so very nicely throughout the day. Like, now the next foundation I have here is the Colourpop No Filter foundation. I use the shade Dark 160, even though I think this has gotten in terms of undertone a bit off for me now that I've changed. So as you can tell by the swatch here, it is definitely too deep for me. So if you happen to be interested in this, I would say go up a shade, so like 155 might be a better shade match for you. This came out a couple years ago. I did a review on it, and honestly speaking, this foundation does not perform very well in our heat. It starts to break down and the texture is weird. It doesn't lay as nicely as some of my other foundations, and I find this to be a complete disappointment because the concealer version was so much better. So of course, you know, when everybody saw that they were coming out with the foundation version, everybody jumped on it, but like, since its release, I have not heard anybody singing its praises, and I mean, I understand why. The next foundation I'm going to share is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte Foundation. This is a oldie but goodie and a love of mine. I use the shade 109 Classic Tan. For those looking to cop this one, you can get this in Pennywise, and it's about $90 which is not bad. This wears all day long. If you're super duper oily, ladies, gents, this is the foundation for you. I know they have since expanded the shade range for this, which is even better, so you can, there's a better chance of you finding your match now than I would say probably about 3 years ago when this came out. But yo, this foundation is the bomb.com. Now the next one I have here is the Covergirl Trublend Matte Made Foundation. This is another one that I picked up earlier this year, and I have yet to test it out, but I've seen such great reviews on it. The shade range on this foundation is insane. There are like 40 or 50 colors in this foundation alone. I picked up the shade T80 Toasted Caramel. It looks like a good enough match, but again, it's a hair too warm for me at this moment, so I do have to like tweak it, flip it and reverse it if I want to use it. But I know that when I go outdoors and I get a little more on the tan side, this foundation will be a pretty good match. Yo, this is a fave of mine. This is the L'Oreal Pro Matte Foundation. This foundation lasts whole day. When I say whole day, like whole day. You could put this on and leave this on and forget it, and this foundation just looks so very good on the skin. For me, I use the shade Caramel. Somebody mentioned in my last video with the favorite 5 affordable that this leaves flashback. I don't get any flashback. Maybe you're using the incorrect shade, or your face primer sometimes or your powder could cause flashback, so kind of like be mindful of those things just on a general when using foundation. Now this next foundation, guys, is what I have on my face right now, and Olia, when I tell Olia I love this foundation, it's like I love it. If they stop making it, I will cry. I will legit go out and buy backups. And this is the L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear Foundation. Yo, Olia, this foundation is a foundation and a half. I use the shade 510, and what's the name of this shade? Hazelnuts. You know, I could go down a shade if I want to, but I really like that kind of bronzy look. So if you're like me, you like to look bronzy, you could use this, but this works so very well on dry skin, oily skin. But once you live in the Caribbean, listen, this foundation lasts whole day. Now this is the foundation that has broken my heart. Why, you say? Because they no longer make this, and if you have to buy it, you have to buy it like off of Amazon, which I find is crazy, because they only just released this foundation last year, and from what I saw, everybody was enjoying it, so I don't know why they discontinued it. It makes no sense. Covergirl, you're not making sense. But anyhow, it is the Covergirl Vitalist Healthy Elixir foundation. Guys, this foundation is so very nice. Like, it's so skin-like and breathable, but it can handle like our heat and humidity. And if you have oily skin, don't worry, it can handle your oily skin. And I use the shade Classic Tan, and the shade, it is such a better shade match for me. But oh dear, beautiful foundation. Covergirl, please bring it back, bring it back. Now this foundation is my last affordable foundation in my collection. This one is probably the most full coverage foundation you can get in an accessible drugstore like Pennywise or Superfarm or Starlight. This is the Maybelline Superstay foundation. When I say super, it is super full coverage, super thick, and for me personally, I don't like that. I used to like that kind of coverage when I was younger, not anymore. I use the shade 334 Warm Sun. Somehow the undertone of this, I mean, you're not seeing it here, but it looks a little too yellow on me. Just a tad bit. I need something a little more neutral, but yeah. Guys, could you believe I forgot my Revlon? Like, I thought I wrapped up all my affordable, and then I was like, but wait, we still have Revlon here. Oh yeah, this is a holy grail. Yeah, oily skin, Revlon Color Stay. You need a match that is a NC45, 375 Toffee Caramel. Oh yeah, I don't need to say anything more on this foundation. Like, seriously, this is a workhorse of a foundation. The shade range has been expanded even further, so ladies, gents, chances are you may find your match in this. And again, affordable and easily accessible. Okay, and that is my affordable drugstore. Now moving more on to the indie and high-end foundations. Kicking it off is the Beauty Bakerie Cake Mix Foundation. I did a dedicated review on this. The shade I picked up when it first launched was too warm, so of course I picked up another shade since then, 25. Oh my god, my eyesight going. I use the shade 25 in Cake Mix. This is such a strange foundation. Now the shade itself matches perfectly. This has a very nice neutral undertone, as you can see here. But this foundation is so very strange. And when I say strange is you cannot use a typical mattifying primer with this. It will look crusty, rough, dusty. You legit have to use like a hydrating primer with this foundation. It does sit nicely, but to try and figure out the primer to use with this foundation might be a little like daunting for some folks, which is why I don't think it's popular with a lot of people. Now this one I picked up earlier this year. It is the Dose of Colors Meteor Hue Matte Foundation, and I got it in the shade 127 Medium Tan. I don't like this foundation. Like, this foundation had mixed reviews, and I lean more on the I don't like this foundation. Now the match is pretty good. The company even sent like a foundation card with different shades just in case I got my wrong shade. This is a medium buildable foundation, so you have to use quite a bit of foundation to get coverage on it. The match is pretty spot on, but I don't like how this wears throughout the day. It does not wear very nicely. It breaks down, and I find for the price tag it's nothing spectacular. Now this next foundation is the Jouer Essential High Coverage Cream Foundation. Now you do get less than your typical 1 ounce of product in this foundation, but this is a concentrate pigment, so a little goes a very long way. When I tell you this thing full, this is such a full coverage foundation. Like, you could hide your outside man with this foundation and forget where you hiding. That's to tell you how full this foundation is. And I got it in the shade Cafe, and it's such an interesting like formula. Like, it is very liquidy, but then it's like a pure pigment, you know. And when I tell you I look so nice, my faces look so nice with this foundation. Of course it's looking quite warm here, but again, this is the underside of my arm. It tends to be the lightest part of my body, you know, but this looks so very nice on the skin. Now this next foundation is the Too Faced Dew You foundation. It's supposed to be full coverage glow foundation, so it's like a glow from within. I realize for me personally, Too Faced complexion products are a bit off. I like the concealers, but for the most part, finding a shade that matches me in any particular line of foundation that Too Faced carries out is very hard. Like, it is super duper hard. I asked a girlfriend to get this for me from Ulta because it's like an Ulta exclusive. They had a ridiculous sale where they had these for like half off, and she got it in the shade Butterscotch, which is too dark, too warm for me. Well, look how dark that foundation is on there. That is too dark for me. That might more fit like a MAC NC50, but the next shade up, which I believe is Honey, is too light for me. So there's like a whole gap of shades missing in between, which is why I never was able to find my perfect shade in it. But separate apart from that, I'm kind of happy because this does not wear very nicely on the skin. It is a fresh glow, but, well, it's supposed to be a fresh glow, but instead you look like a greasy pillory. I know I said it before, I'll go say it again. Greasy, greasy, greasy pillory. Now these next three foundations come from the NARS brand, which is a brand that is near and dear to my heart. I love that brand. Like, in terms of consistency, they're really good at producing very high quality products. Like, the quality control is really great. Kicking it off is the NARS Shea Glow. My only problem with it is it does not come with a pump. You have to legit buy a pump separate, and that's my only gripe with this foundation. But it wears so very nicely on the skin. I mean, when I heard Shea Glow, I was like, okay, this is going to look terrible. But when I tell you, it looks so soft, so glowy, so very skin-like. And I use the shade Cadiz. I don't think I mentioned that. So I think what I will do, because it's 3 of the same brand but different finishes, I will swatch them side by side. Alright, so this is the Shea Glow foundation in the shade Cadiz here. Alright, just wish it came with a pump. The next one is the NARS All Day Luminous Weightless foundation, which I understand has been discontinued. This is such a good foundation, guys. Like, it is lightweight, but it's like a matte satin. I don't know, a velvet matte. Velvet matte. Really lovely on the skin. Again, I use the shade Cadiz. And this is such a lovely foundation. Let me just, like, the pump giving me a little trouble there. But again, you're going to see the swatch next to the Shea Glow, and it is like basically the same thing. So this is the All Day Luminous down here. And the last one, which was one of, sorry for that, it fell. One of the more recent ones is the NARS All Day Radiant. The Radiant, Natural Radiant Longwear Foundation. God, Charlie, butcher that one. Again, I use the shade Cadiz. I know there is a new one coming out, so I will most likely pick that one up. Again, I use the shade Cadiz. And like, can you see a difference in the shades? Like, this is one of the few brands who are able to keep the shade consistent despite the finish of the foundation. So this next brand, I have 3 different types of foundation in this brand, but when I tell you, the foundations are so very good and they really wear very nicely in our temperature. It is the Becca line, and I have 3 from that particular brand. The first one is the Becca Evermatte Shine Proof Foundation, and I use the shade Amber. And this is a full coverage foundation. Just like the NARS, I'm going to do swatches side by side so you can see the differences or not. So this is the first one in the shade Amber. And this is such a good match for me. It is not too warm and it's not too cool, it's just right. The next one is the Becca Skin Love. I think this is one of the more recent ones. I picked this up from Beautylish when they had a sale. This is a Weightless Blue foundation, and I did again get this in the shade Amber. Again, another squeezy pump. Well, this squeezy tube has a pump. The other one was just a squeezy tube, you know. So I'm just gonna like do this swatch here for you guys, and that is Amber, under Amber. You know. And the last one is the Becca Ultimate Coverage 24-Hour Foundation. This is a MAC daddy of a foundation. When I tell you full coverage, you could lose your house keys under this foundation. That's to tell you how full coverage it is. And this is one again that works very well in our climate. It doesn't move, it doesn't budge. It's pricey, right? But these are my more high-end ones, and that is the swatch there. And again, just like Becca, they managed to keep the shades very consistent, and the quality of these foundations are very consistent as well. If it's one thing, I would say Becca makes some of the best complexion products, like primers and highlighters and foundations on the market. Can't beat Becca. And this is the first foundation they came out with. I know there is a second one that I have yet to get and test. It's on my wish list, but as you can tell, you see I have a lot of foundations to go through, right? So this is the Fenty Soft Filter, no, Pro Filter Foundation. Correct yourself. Soft Filter, I believe, is the primer. This is the Pro Filter Foundation, and I use the shade 370. I did a dedicated video on this. I think this is my most watched singular foundation review, right? And this foundation is matte, and what I noticed, like with application, you have to blend it in immediately. You can't sit down and make it, sit down and wait. It dries quickly, and yo, when I tell you, this foundation is so nice and matte. Like, I know some makeup artists, this is the foundation they use on their clients, and this is such a good match for me. Now this next foundation I bought earlier this year, actually at the beginning of this year, and I have since repurchased it because I like it that much. It is the Anastasia Luminous Foundation. It has a big foundation scribble across it. I use the shade 410C. Now C is supposed to be cool, but for some strange reason this foundation pulls very warm on me. If you want to see the review of how this foundation performs, please check out my playlist. It is in the playlist there. But let me just swatch the foundation for you guys. That is it there. It pulls very warm, which is, I find, very interesting because it's described as cool, but this is a very good foundation to get because even though it's luminous, it works very well on oily skin. It gives that kind of skin-like finish, and for me, as I've gotten older, I've been more leaning towards my satin or velvet finishes versus my very matte foundations because they are more forgiving on the face, and they actually look a little more realistic than the very matte ones, you know. Now this foundation probably is my all-time favorite foundation, and when I say all-time, like of all the foundations I have here and I've tried over the years, this one is a tried and true fave of mine. This is the Lancome Teint Idole foundation. This foundation also has a great shade range, so if you are as deep as Nima Tan, for instance, you can get your shade match in this. I use the shade 450 Suede N, which is a lovely neutral. Now this is one of the more expensive high-end foundations I own, but when I tell you this foundation lives up to its name, it's one of those 24-hour foundations. Oh yeah, look how beautiful that undertone is. Like, it matches spot on. Not too warm, not too cool, lovely neutral, beautiful finish. It's like a satin finish. It is matte, but not too matte. It's more satin, and this is a favorite of mine. Like, I've been purchasing this foundation for the greater part of 6 years now, and I love this foundation. I will continue to purchase this foundation. Yeah, and those are my high-end foundations. Now the last set of foundations I'm going to feature here are my luxury foundations. Luxury meaning they are higher than high-end, most likely not just in price but in terms of the status. Some of these are from top name brand designers, you know, and I'm going to feature these foundations in ascending order in terms of the price range. So I'm going to start off with my cheapest luxury foundation and cap it off with my most expensive foundation. And just rest assured, I don't have that many luxury foundations. The price tags on those are ridiculous, and you'll see when I mention them, it'll have you clutching your pearls. You know. First one I want to talk about is the Dior Backstage Face and Body Foundation. I hauled this a while back, and I really need to like get another one. I have like half a bottle left in this, but this was such a good one. I just wish it came with a pump, but I understand that this is a foundation that it's meant to be applied with your fingertips, hence the squeezy tube, you know. And I use the shade 4.5N. Now you're gonna look at this and say, Colleen, this is too deep on you. It does look too deep, it does, but if you watch the actual review on this foundation, there is some kind of shade adjusting technology in this foundation that it legit just melts into my face, and it looks like if I have absolutely nothing on. I mean, this retails for $40 US. It's cheaper than some of my high-end ones, but this is from the designer Dior, Christian Dior, so it falls in my luxury category. And this is what it looks like here. So if you're my shade, don't worry, this one actually will work for you, because the shade down, which is 4, is too light for you. Trust me when I say you're gonna look crazy. Now the next foundation I have here is a love of mine. This is another heartbreaker foundation, because I think they have since discontinued this one, and it's really depressing. This is a Marc Jacobs ReMarcable foundation. Now this retails for $55 US, but they had it on sale for like $28 US for a while now, and I think there are only like a few shades left. Now what I find interesting about this foundation, first and foremost, this foundation is also a pure pigment foundation. So again, a little goes a very long way. You don't need much, but this is full coverage. When I tell you, you can hide any and everything. And I know I joke and say you can hide this, you can hide that. Like seriously, this is pure pigment. So a little goes a long way. And then the design of this foundation component is very interesting, because it has a cap first, which, to be quite honest, I don't see the point of it other than for probably the aesthetics. But even if you had it like this, it still looks aesthetically pleasing. And the applicator is a spatula, which is really like a dumbbell. It's not even like a flat, you know, spatula. It's like a dumbbell, which I find is so strange, you know. But I guess it promotes you taking out very little products, because like I said, you don't need much. And excuse, this is what it looks like here. It is darker than I am. My gripe about this foundation line is that it is not very all-inclusive. There are only like 4 deeper dark shades in the entire line, which is deplorable, you know. And I really hope that he brings this out and he extends it. I really hope so, even though I know that it's happening. And I use the shade 82 Cocoa Light, which is very deep for me. This is my lightest concealers to make it tweak, but when I tell you the finish of this foundation is so very flawless, like, and this last whole day, like, I have used this for work and to go out straight after work or events, and I don't have to touch up my makeup whatsoever. Now this foundation once upon a time was my most expensive foundation in my collection. It has since been dethroned twice over. Yeah, twice over. This is the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. This was one of those foundations that Nitra B, if you follow her, she more or less convinced me to get it, and I bought it because I knew it was the rage back in the day. This is a really nice foundation. Again, it has a soft focus filter on it, and it's not matte, it's not too satin, it's just right in there in between, almost like a matte velvet, but it wears very nicely on the skin. This retails for $64 US. Yes, 64 US, like and I use the shade 9, which is a very nice neutral undertone. Like Olio, seriously, this is such a beautiful foundation. Like, I would recommend this as probably your bridal foundation. It is so gorgeous. No flashback, nothing. And Lord, it's expensive. So this next foundation was sent to me in Influencer last year, and I got a ton of reviews on it and subscribers. Thanks a lot. Unfortunately, they sent me the wrong shade, so I ended up giving that to a friend of mine, and I went back on the website to get a shade that is more, well, better suited to my complexion. It is the Pat McGrath Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Foundation, and it is a lot. It's a mouthful. I even have the concealer. That's to tell you how much I love Pat. This retails for $68 US, and I use the shade 20. Now they did recommend the shade 19 for me, and I could use it, but for me, like I said, I like to give off that kind of rich, warm look. You know, I don't like my foundations to be too exact, because when they are, especially when you add your concealer and your powders and stuff, that flashback do look cute. And this is what it looks like here. You see, it definitely is warm. So I mean, I really could go down to a medium 19, but I like the medium 20. The finish on this is really lovely. Like, even with the wrong shade I had, it still looked very nice on the skin. Like, I was getting compliments all day when I did that wear test, and I love wearing this. Like, I wear this when I feel like I'm feeling myself, like I'm smelling myself. So like when I have to go to court and I want to look really nice, like this is the foundation I pull out, and it really lives up to the name of Sublime Blurring Perfection. Like it's gorgeous. It's just that it's very expensive. So for me, I would feel better buying this when she has her 20% off sale. So although we reached the end, oh my gosh, 28 foundations later. 28? Yeah, about 28. Woo! Although this is my most expensive foundation. This foundation comes in at a whopping $88 US. It's not the most expensive foundation in the market, but for me, that is the most I will ever pay for a foundation. This brand has since come out with a newer one, which I believe is like $125, and I like, no, I have $125 palettes, but they're different. I can't pay $125 for a singular makeup item. Whew. Yeah, well, yeah. The Tom Ford Waterproof Foundation and Concealer. This little sucker is $88 US. Now I think they have since discontinued this foundation because I've seen this going on sale at Nordstrom, and Sephora, and they've been clearing it out. So I don't even know if you can get this shade, this type of foundation. I know he has others, but my problem with Tom Ford is that he is not consistent with the shades. So if you have one shade in one line, you can't find it in the other. And for me, that's very frustrating because my shade is so very in between. I can't even find it in the other ones. And for me, I am not about to make that expensive foundation mistake. I'm sorry, but foundation at this price is too expensive to make that kind of mistake. I use the shade 9.0 Sienna in this one. I'm just watching it for you, just so you have an idea. But I can't even say I could repurchase this foundation when this one is finished, because the line has since been discontinued, which sucks. And this one is such a nice foundation. Again, it has a little olive undertone to it, but it is so nice. When I tell you, this looks so nice on the skin. Like, Olio, why you had to go and discontinue it, Tom Ford? Why? So yeah, so basically that is my 2020 foundation collection. I'm sorry it was long, but it would definitely have been shorter than my very first foundation collection back in 2016. That video is over 1 hour long and it has over 23,000 views on it. So I'm like, if 23,000 of you guys could watch that video, you could definitely watch this one. And yeah, break that record, you know, and make this video my most watched video, you know. Yeah, so that's basically it for this video. So if you found this video helpful, useful, educational, entertaining, what have you, give this video a thumbs up, comment in the comment section below, and share this video. Maybe you might have a friend out there who has oily skin, or it's my complexion, or maybe you have oily skin, or you're my complexion and you live in like one of the world's hottest places on earth. Yeah, make sure to thumbs up this video and comment and like and share, and most importantly subscribe, because a girl is trying to hit 5,000 subscribers for the year 2020. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.